The Galactic Academy shimmered above a silver-blue moon, a place where cadets from every corner of the galaxy came to prove themselves. They were the brightest minds, the strongest warriors, and the proud heirs of worlds that had long forgotten fear. Yet even among these brave souls there was one name whispered only in caution: Earth. No one trained there. No one even spoke of going near it. They called it the Forbidden Planet. The record said its storms could rip metal apart, its beasts could swallow soldiers whole, and its oceans could crush ships with pressure alone. The few explorers who tried to visit never returned. Every alien child grew up hearing the same warning: nothing survives Earth. So when the Academy's morning bell rang and a new cadet's name appeared on the roster marked Origin, Earth, the hall fell silent. The instructors checked twice, thinking it was a joke, but the name remained: Elias Trent, human. The training hall doors opened. A young man stepped through, tall, calm, wearing a plain uniform with a small patch that read Earth Expeditionary Corps. His eyes were steady, his smile faint. Around him, alien cadets of all shapes and colors froze. Some had scales that shimmered like armor. Others had translucent skin glowing with inner light. Every gaze followed the human as he walked to the front row and quietly took his seat. The whispering began. "Impossible," hissed a crimson-skinned Sithran. "No one survives that world," murmured a winged Avrian. An instructor finally cleared his throat. "Cadet Elias Trent," he said. "You are from the planet Earth?" Elias nodded. "Yes, sir." The room grew colder. "Do you realize," the instructor continued, "that your planet is classified as a death world?" Elias tilted his head slightly. "I've heard," he said, "but we just call it home." A nervous laugh rippled through the hall. One cadet muttered, "Home? That's madness," another whispered. "Maybe humans don't know what pain means." Yet the human didn't respond. He simply opened his datapad, ready for the first lesson. The instructor began a lecture about planetary resilience and environmental adaptation. His tone was sharp, meant to intimidate. "Some planets burn," he said. "Some freeze. Earth does both, sometimes in one day." The class chuckled, but Elias just smiled again. "That's true," he said quietly. "But that's what makes it interesting." By midday, news of the human spread across the campus. Cadets from other wings peeked through the doors just to see the newcomer. Many came expecting to watch him fail. They imagined he would collapse under the Academy's high gravity or faint from the air mixture. But to their surprise, Elias moved easily, breathing slow and even, like someone who had walked through worse. When the lunch bell rang, he sat alone beneath the wide glass dome of the cafeteria. Outside, stars shimmered and ships glided between them like silver arrows. A few aliens whispered from nearby tables. "Does he even eat the same food? Maybe he needs radiation to survive." Elias could hear every word, but he didn't mind. He took a bite from a ration bar and looked up at the stars, his eyes soft with memory. He remembered deserts that stretched forever, forests that sang at night, storms that painted the skies green and purple. Earth wasn't a death world to him. It was the mother that taught humanity to endure. Every wound it gave had shaped them into what they were. That evening, the Academy held a gravity test, a standard drill for all new cadets. The platform spun, increasing pressure until bodies ached and bones strained. Most cadets stopped at level 4. The instructor warned, "Level 5 is dangerous." Elias stepped forward anyway, his boots locked to the metal floor, muscles tightening. He could feel his heart pounding, but his face remained calm. The level climbed. 5, 6, then 7. The room gasped. "Turn it off," shouted someone, but Elias raised a hand. "I'm fine," he said, voice steady. When the machine stopped, he stood straight, sweat running down his neck, but eyes still bright. The instructor's voice shook. "What kind of planet trains a man to withstand this?" Elias looked at him and answered softly, "One that never cared if we were ready or not." That night, the alien cadets could not sleep. For the first time, they realized that Earth might not be cursed. It might be the forge where the universe's toughest beings were made. As the stars drifted above the Academy's dome, one thought echoed through every corridor. If one human could survive Earth, what could humanity do to the rest of the galaxy? The day after Elias Trent's arrival, the Galactic Academy buzzed with more curiosity than ever before. Instructors whispered in private, students argued in corridors, and the rumor grew wild. The human from Earth had survived the gravity chamber. No one could ignore it now. For some it was fascinating. For others it was an insult. How could a primitive species from a death world outperform the children of the stars? Commander Virex, the chief instructor, decided the truth must be tested. He summoned Elias to the main training arena, where thousands of cadets gathered to watch. The vast dome shimmered with energy fields, and holographic panels floated around showing different simulations. Today, Virex announced, his voice booming, we test the endurance of our newest cadet. The crowd cheered mockingly. A few whispered bets. Some said he wouldn't last 10 minutes. Elias stood calm, his uniform plain, his eyes steady. He didn't boast or protest. He only nodded when told that the environment would shift through multiple hostile conditions. Fire, cold, acid rain, and radiation. The commander smirked. You may withdraw at any point. Elias smiled faintly. You'll have to tell me when to stop. The dome darkened, and the first phase began. The floor beneath his feet melted into red rock and lava glow, the temperature rising beyond safe limits. Around him, heat waves shimmered like ghosts. Alien cadets covered their faces, but Elias walked forward slowly. The suit sensors warned him, but he kept moving. He remembered the burning deserts of his home world, the days he worked under a sun that could scorch the skin. This simulation felt gentle. Phase 2 came without warning. The air froze. White frost crawled up his boots, and howling winds roared. The aliens watching from behind the shield wrapped their arms around themselves even through the barrier. Elias just adjusted his breathing, slow and calm. His voice echoed through the arena. You call this winter? The crowd fell silent. Next came acid rain. Thick green drops hissing on the metal floor. Every droplet sizzled as it hit his armor. The system warned of damage, but Elias moved with steady steps. The smell reminded him of old factories near Earth's polluted cities. He had lived through worse storms, storms that turned rivers toxic and skies gray for weeks. Finally, the radiation field activated, glowing with blue light that made everything blur. Even Virex stepped back from the console. Enough, one instructor said. He'll collapse. But Elias didn't. He clenched his fists and looked straight ahead, whispering, if you think this will break me, you don't know what Earth is. When the dome lights dimmed, Elias was still standing. His suit was scorched, his skin pale, but his eyes, bright, alive, defiant. The silence that followed was heavier than applause. No one dared to laugh now. Virex walked toward him slowly, his cold, reptilian eyes narrowing. You endured all 4 phases, he said. Why didn't you stop? Elias shrugged. Where I'm from, stopping means losing something you love. That answer didn't come from arrogance. It came from experience, from the human instinct that turns pain into progress. The crowd of cadets began murmuring differently this time. No more mockery, only quiet awe. A blue-skinned cadet whispered. He didn't survive, he adapted. Later that night, the training footage spread across the network. Planets far beyond the Academy received the clip titled, Human Endures Deathworld Simulation. In forums and communication hubs, aliens argued. Was the simulation faulty? Was he enhanced? But those who saw the look in his eyes knew the truth. Inside the Academy dorms, cadets couldn't sleep. The humans' calm endurance haunted them. What kind of world could raise someone to face pain and smile back? What kind of species could survive such cruelty and still choose kindness? Commander Virex sat alone in his office, replaying the test. His claws tapped the metal desk. If this is what a single human can do, he muttered, what would happen if their kind spread among the stars? Meanwhile, Elias looked out his dorm window at the glowing planet below. He didn't see fame or fear. He just missed home. The chaos, the storms, the familiar scent of rain. He whispered softly, you'd be proud of me, Earth. And somewhere deep inside the Academy's digital logs, a new note was added under the human's profile. Subject exhibits extreme adaptive capacity, unknown limits. The galaxy had finally noticed, but it was far too late to unsee what they had witnessed. The first human had arrived, and he had already changed everything. Days passed since the simulation that left the entire Academy speechless. Elias Trent's name was now whispered in corridors, printed across hollow feeds, and debated in every training bay. Some cadets still mocked quietly out of pride. Others stared in silent respect. The human had done what none of them thought possible, but no one truly understood how. At breakfast, the cafeteria hummed with energy. Aliens from dozens of species filled the long metallic hall. Their voices echoed in layered tones. Clicks, growls, hums, and whistles blending like music. Elias sat at his usual corner table, quietly eating from a ration pack, while others watched from afar. No one dared sit with him yet. Curiosity was winning, but fear still held the edge. From another table, a tall Avrian cadet with silver feathers leaned toward her friends. "He looks so calm," she whispered, "like he's waiting for a storm that never comes." Her companion, a scaled HFY male, snorted. "Or maybe humans don't feel anything." Elias looked up and smiled faintly. "We feel everything," he said. "That's why we survive it." The HFY froze. He hadn't realized the human could hear him from meters away. Later that day, during planetary history class, Professor Lorik displayed holograms of known death worlds. Each one showed shattered terrains and extinct life forms. "These are places where life fails," Lorik declared, "except one." The image shifted. A swirl of blue and green appeared, lightning flashing across continents, oceans roaring, volcanoes burning through clouds. The class gasped. The word Earth glowed at the top of the screen. Elias sat quietly, his face unreadable. Lorik's tone changed. "For centuries, Earth has been a mystery. Every probe sent there was destroyed. Every expedition ended in silence. We believed no sentient life could exist there." His gaze fell on Elias. Until now. Dozens of alien eyes turned toward the human. Elias could feel the weight of their attention but stayed calm. "Professor," he said softly, "maybe the planet wasn't rejecting you. Maybe it was protecting itself." Lorik blinked. "You mean defending?" Elias nodded. "Everything on Earth learns to fight back. Storms, animals, people. It's just how life works there." The room fell silent again. The professor cleared his throat and changed the slide. But the lesson had already shifted from theory to awe. By evening, the whispers had turned into questions. In the recreation hall, a few brave cadets approached Elias. A young violet-skinned Yulari girl asked shyly, "Is it true your planet's sky changes colors every day?" Elias smiled. "Sometimes blue, sometimes gold, sometimes red, depends on the mood." The cadets laughed softly, the tension melting for the first time. Another asked, "And the creatures there, are they really that dangerous?" Elias shrugged. "Some are, but most just want to live, same as you." Word spread fast that the human answered anyone who asked. Kindly, patiently, never boasting, never mocking. He didn't act like a legend. He acted like a teacher. Soon small groups began forming around him after class, eager to hear stories of a world that sounded more like myth than fact. He told them about lightning storms that split trees in half, about oceans deeper than any crater, about forests that could hide entire cities. He described ice so thick it swallowed ships, and deserts that could boil your blood. Yet through it all, he spoke with warmth, not fear. "It's not the danger that defines Earth," he said once. "It's how we learn to live with it." The aliens listened in stunned silence. They began to realize that humans didn't conquer their world. They coexisted with it. They weren't just survivors. They were students of nature's cruelty, masters of adaptation. One evening, the same HFY cadet who had mocked him earlier walked up and offered a drink. "For someone who eats ration bars, you talk a lot about flavor." Elias chuckled, accepting it. "That's the trick," he said. "You find flavor even when there's none." The HFY laughed for the first time. "Maybe your kind isn't so strange after all." As the stars shone through the glass dome above, groups of aliens sat together, sharing questions, laughter, and quiet amazement. The mockery that once surrounded the human had dissolved into fascination. Instructors noticed the shift. Students who once competed fiercely now trained harder, inspired by the quiet human who never bragged yet never failed. Commander Virex watched from the upper balcony, his eyes narrowing thoughtfully. Humanity's influence was spreading faster than he expected. And deep inside the Academy network, the profile note under Elias Trent changed once again. Subject exhibits not only resilience, but leadership potential. Peer influence observed. Emotional adaptation remarkable. What began as curiosity was slowly becoming something far more powerful. respect. And for the first time in galactic history, aliens weren't just studying a human. They were learning from one. The Galactic Academy had seen many challenges over the centuries, but never one quite like the human. Every instructor, every commander, every cadet wanted to understand how a creature from a so-called Deathworld could survive so effortlessly where others struggled to breathe. Commander Virex decided it was time for a real test. Not a simulation, not a classroom exercise, but a true measure of endurance. He called it the Trial of Endurance, a 5-phase event that pushed body and mind beyond limits. It was held once every generation, and no alien had ever completed it without medical aid. The test lasted a full cycle, 40 hours under changing gravity, temperature, and pressure. It wasn't about speed, it was about survival. When Elias Trent's name appeared on the participant list, the Academy nearly erupted. Cadets filled the halls to see it with their own eyes. Some said he was insane. Others said he was fearless. Commander Virex simply said, "Let us see if the human's legend is real." The trial began at dawn under a sky streaked with silver clouds. The first stage was the Run of Silence, a 10-mile sprint across shifting terrain while wearing energy weights. Most cadets collapsed halfway. Gasping and trembling, Elias ran steady, not fast but consistent. His steps never broke rhythm. And when one alien stumbled beside him, Elias grabbed his arm and helped him up. The cameras caught the moment. A Deathworlder helping another species mid-race. The audience roared. Stage 2 was the ascent, a vertical climb up the gravity tower. With pressure increasing every few meters, Elias climbed like a shadow moving upward. His breaths deepened, his hands bled, yet he never looked down. When asked later how he kept moving, he replied softly, "On Earth, the only way to survive a fall is not to stop climbing." By stage 3, most cadets were withdrawn. Only a few remained conscious. The heat tunnel roared alive, molten light flashing through glass walls. Temperatures soared beyond safe range. Virex watched from the control deck, expecting the human to quit. But Elias walked through the flames like a figure born from them. His uniform scorched, skin blistered, but eyes steady. He didn't fight the heat. He accepted it, adapted, endured. Stage 4 was the endless night, a psychological trial. Darkness fell, sound vanished. Gravity fluctuated randomly. Voices whispered in the void. Illusions tested the mind. Many cadets screamed or begged to be released, but Elias sat in silence, cross-legged, heartbeat slow, remembering nights on Earth where thunder shook the sky and loneliness was louder than fear. When the lights returned, he was still there, calm and awake. The monitors showed an unusual pattern. His heart rate steady, brainwaves focused. The observers had never seen anything like it. Finally came the last stage. The storm, simulated acid rain, debris winds, and gravitational surges all at once. The arena became chaos. Every being in the observation deck stared in disbelief as Elias stood in the center, eyes closed, letting the storm wash over him. He remembered home. Hurricanes that broke cities, quakes that split roads, and humans who rebuilt again and again. He took one step forward, then another, until the storm ended. When silence fell, the human was still standing, chest rising slowly, eyes shining through the haze. Commander Virex descended to the field, boots echoing on the scorched floor. He stopped before Elias and asked quietly, "Why didn't you stop?" Elias looked at him, his voice hoarse but clear. "Because on Earth, endurance isn't a test, it's life." The crowd of cadets erupted in applause. Even those who had once mocked him stood to cheer. For the first time in the Academy's long history, a human had completed the trial of endurance. Later that night, as the medical bots treated his burns and cuts, Elias sat by the window, staring at the distant stars. The instructors called him a phenomenon. The cadets called him a legend. But he only thought of home, of rain, wind, and the stubborn heartbeat of humanity. Commander Virex entered quietly. "You've changed this place," he said. Elias smiled faintly. Maybe it needed reminding. "Of what?" Virex asked. "That survival," Elias replied, "isn't about strength or perfection. It's about refusing to surrender." Outside, the galaxy slept, but within the Academy, something had awakened. The understanding that humans didn't just endure their world, they were forged by it. And from that day forward, no one looked at Earth the same way again. The story of Elias Trent spread through the stars like wildfire, from the smallest outposts to the grandest stations. Every broadcast replayed the same footage, a human standing tall as the storm ended. For some, it was inspiration. For others, a warning. Humanity had stepped into the galaxy's heart, and the galaxy was not sure it liked what it saw. Within the shining halls of the Galactic Council, the High Elders gathered, their faces hidden behind shimmering masks of light. Voices echoed through the marble chamber. "We must discuss the human," said Elder Varlon, his tone sharp. "The Deathworlder who outlasted every species at the Academy." Another elder hissed, a threat wrapped in curiosity. They replayed the trial footage again, slow and precise. Each frame showed Elias enduring what no other being could. His calm expression unsettled them more than his strength. "No creature should stand unbroken after such trials," murmured the elder of the Drith. "If one human can do this, imagine what an army could accomplish." The council chamber filled with silence, a kind that carried fear, distrust, and fascination all at once. "Perhaps," said the youngest of the elders, "we should recall him, study him further." But Elder Varlon shook his head. "Study leads to envy. Envy leads to war." Meanwhile, at the Academy, Elias continued his routine as if nothing had changed. He trained, studied, and helped others quietly, unaware that his every move was now under surveillance. Hidden cameras followed him through the halls, data reports sent to the council every hour, yet nothing about him screamed danger, only determination. One evening, he was summoned to the council station orbiting the twin suns of the Lara Prime. The transport ship glided through the golden clouds until a grand citadel came into view. Inside, Elias stood before 12 glowing figures, the High Council of the Galactic Union. Elder Varlon's voice echoed first. "Elias Trent of Earth," he said, "you have shown abilities beyond expectation. We wish to understand how." Elias nodded calmly. "Ask," he said simply. The elder continued. "Your planet's conditions should not allow your species to survive, yet you thrive. How?" Elias paused, his gaze steady. "Because we had to," he said. "Earth never gave us comfort, so we made our own." The chamber murmured. "Explain," said another elder. Elias took a deep breath. "On Earth, nature doesn't protect you. It tests you. It burns, freezes, starves, and still demands you rise again. Every generation learns the same lesson. Pain is not punishment, it's preparation." The words hung in the air like an echo that refused to fade. The council members shifted uncomfortably. For them, life was predictable, their world safe, their survival engineered, not earned. Elder Varlon leaned forward, his golden eyes narrowing. "Do you mean to say suffering is your teacher?" Elias nodded. "Yes, and it's the best one we ever had." The silence that followed was heavy. The council dismissed him politely, but their eyes betrayed their unease. As Elias walked out of the chamber, he could hear them whisper behind him. "If all humans are like him," one said. "They could reshape the stars," another replied. "Then we must ensure they do not." Back at the Academy, Commander Virex received a classified message marked Council Priority. He read the lines carefully. "Monitor the human. Restrict data access. Report any unusual behavior." He looked at the message, then at Elias training outside, sweat dripping under artificial sunlight. "They're afraid of him," Virex muttered, "but they should be learning from him." That night, under the dim lights of his dorm, Elias wrote quietly in his journal. "They think strength comes from power," he wrote, "but it comes from pain, from getting back up when no one believes you can." He closed the book and looked out at the stars. In the council chambers far above, Elder Varlon stood by the massive observation window, staring at Earth's data feed. One world made of storms, one species made of struggle, he whispered, "and we call them dangerous." He turned away, troubled, because deep inside, he knew the truth. If humanity had survived such a world, then maybe it wasn't humans who were dangerous. Maybe it was everyone else who had grown too soft. And somewhere in the distance, the stars seemed to burn a little brighter, as if the universe itself had started to remember the name, Earth. Weeks passed since Elias Trent's meeting with the Galactic Council. The whispers of doubt and fear spread quietly through the stars, but inside the Academy, something else was growing. Respect. The same cadets who once mocked him now trained harder, inspired by the quiet human who never bragged, yet never broke. Commander Virex watched from the observation deck as Elias led a small group through a new exercise. The alien cadets were struggling under heavy gravity simulation. Some groaned, some cursed, while Elias walked among them calmly. "You can't fight the weight," he said. "You learn to move with it." His tone wasn't commanding, it was guiding. When one cadet fell, Elias knelt beside him and said softly, "Breathe through it. Don't fight the pain. Let it pass through you." The alien blinked, surprised. "Does that really work?" Elias smiled faintly. "It kept my people alive." By the end of the session, every cadet stood a little straighter, their exhaustion replaced by pride. Virex turned to the assistant instructor beside him and said, "He teaches better than half our staff." The assistant nodded. "He teaches survival." Soon, more cadets began requesting to train under Elias. They called his methods the Earth routine. It wasn't about strength, it was about endurance, patience, and will. He taught them to climb, crawl, adapt, and laugh when they failed. "On Earth," he said once, "we fall 100 times before we stand tall." His words spread faster than any broadcast. In the evenings, cadets gathered around him like children around a campfire, eager to hear more of his strange world. "Tell us again about the storms," one would say, "or the oceans," another would add. Elias would smile, eyes soft with memory, and tell them about skies that glowed with lightning, about mountains that roared with fire, and forests that could swallow you whole. But he never spoke of fear, only of beauty. "Earth isn't cruel," he said one night. "It's honest. It shows you exactly how small you are, and then it dares you to stand tall anyway." The alien cadets listened in silence. Many later confessed that his stories made them want to see their own worlds differently, to explore rather than escape. For the first time, the academy halls buzzed with a different energy. Unity instead of rivalry, admiration instead of envy. One morning, an urgent alarm broke the peace. A shuttle in the academy's orbiting dock had malfunctioned, spinning out of control. The rescue drones were too far, and the reactor's heat made teleport locks unstable. Panic spread across the command room. "We'll lose them," an officer shouted. Elias didn't wait for orders. He grabbed a suit, sealed his helmet, and launched himself through the maintenance bay. His small craft darted through debris and flames. He hooked the shuttle's frame, forced the emergency clamps open, and pulled the trapped pilot free. The moment they landed safely, cheers erupted across the academy. Later, when Commander Virex asked why he risked his life, Elias just said, "Because that's what we do." The commander frowned. "You could have died." Elias smiled. "Maybe, but at least he didn't." That act changed everything. The Academy awarded him the Stellar Medal of Honor, something no non-native had ever received. But more than the medal, it was the way cadets looked at him afterward that mattered most. They no longer saw a Deathworlder. They saw a leader, a symbol. Even the Galactic Council couldn't deny the reports anymore. "The human has unified dozens of species," one report read. "His influence is spreading beyond control." But while the Council saw danger, the Academy saw hope. At graduation week, Elias stood on the training field surrounded by cadets from 20 different worlds. The same ones who once doubted him now saluted him. One of them, the young Avrian girl with silver feathers, smiled and said, "When I first met you, I thought you were strange." Elias laughed. "You weren't wrong." She shook her head. "No, I was blind. You taught us how to be strong." When he stepped forward to address the new graduates, he spoke simply. "You are all stronger than you think," he said. "Your worlds made you, just as mine made me. Don't fear the storms. Learn from them." The applause that followed shook the entire dome. Commander Virex stood silently in the back, watching with pride. He knew that one human had done what politics, lectures, and laws had failed to do. Elias Trent had united the galaxy's future under one idea. Endurance is strength. That night, as stars glowed beyond the Academy walls, a new entry appeared in the Galactic Archives. It read, "Elias Trent, human, graduate of the Galactic Academy, the teacher of endurance." The galaxy had feared the human, but now it respected him, and respect, once earned, could never be taken back. Years passed since Elias Trent first walked into the Galactic Academy. The whispers that once mocked his name had faded into history, replaced by legends spoken across the stars. Entire generations of cadets now studied under programs built from his teachings. They called it the Earth Method, a discipline of endurance, resilience, and unity. Where once the Academy taught strength through dominance, now it taught balance through struggle. His lessons had reshaped the galaxy's greatest institution. Instructors quoted his words, commanders repeated his tactics, and cadets carried his philosophy like a flame. "Don't fight the storm," he had said. "Learn its rhythm." Elias had long graduated, but he refused every offer of rank or power. Instead, he became a wanderer, visiting colonies, helping rebuild after disasters, training soldiers, and mediating peace. He never called himself a hero. He simply said he was a man doing what Earth had taught him to do: endure and rebuild. On a quiet evening, he returned to the Academy after many years. The once cold halls now glowed with murals of unity. Humans standing alongside aliens, training, learning, laughing together. A bronze statue stood near the central plaza, depicting a human raising one hand toward the sky. The plaque below read, "Elias Trent, the first human cadet, the teacher of endurance." He stood before it in silence, his reflection shimmering against the metal. Around him, young cadets passed by, whispering excitedly. "That's him," one said. "The Deathworlder who changed everything." Elias smiled quietly. "No," he whispered. "It was all of you." That night, the Academy held a gathering in his honor. Commanders, instructors, and cadets from dozens of species filled the grand hall. Commander Virex, now older and slower, stepped forward to speak. "When you arrived," he said, "we saw you as a threat, but you showed us that fear and respect can share the same space. You taught us to endure not for victory, but for understanding." Elias bowed his head humbly. "You gave me a chance to prove it," he replied. Later, as the stars sparkled beyond the dome, a young cadet approached him, a bright-eyed girl with violet skin. "Sir," she said, "I've read all your lessons, but there's one thing I still don't understand." Elias turned gently. "What is it?" The cadet hesitated. How did humans learn to stay kind after so much suffering? Elias thought for a long moment, then smiled softly. "Because kindness," he said, "is our rebellion against pain. It's how we win without destroying. It's how we remind the universe that no matter how harsh the world becomes, humanity chooses to care anyway." The cadet nodded slowly, her eyes shining. "Thank you," she whispered. When the hall emptied, Elias walked out into the Academy garden, the same garden where he had once sat alone as a student. The same stars watched him from above. He looked toward the horizon where the blue shimmer of Earth could be seen far away. His voice was soft. "You did well, old world," he said. "They understand now." Years later, long after Elias Trent was gone, his legacy lived on. Every Academy graduate learned the Deathworld creed. Endure the pain, honor the lesson, and protect life, no matter its form. Across the galaxy, statues of humans stood not as conquerors, but as teachers, on distant worlds. Children grew up hearing tales of the man who came from the planet no one dared to visit, the man who smiled through storms and taught the stars how to survive. In the archives of the Galactic Council, where fear had once ruled, a final entry appeared in golden letters. Earth, once labeled Deathworld, now recognized as the cradle of endurance. And somewhere, beneath a sky of lightning and fire, the winds of Earth carried a whisper through the forests and over the seas. A whisper that said, "We are still here," because humanity never truly vanished. They simply became the lesson the galaxy would never forget.